Costumes are an important part of China's 5,000-year-old civilization. Aside from meeting basic clothing needs, the common dress of different periods reflects the political changes, economic growth, and changing habits and customs of Chinese society. China's costume system or code dates back to 1046 BC. From the supreme ruler at the top right on down to the mere mortals, everyone was required to wear clothing to match their civil or military status. The spring and autumn period began in 770 BC and was marked by an incessant state of warfare between the dukes and princes for supreme power. Consequently, China entered a period of pluralistic development in the logical and established order of its costume system. But textiles tend to erode easily. Among archaeological finds, garments from the spring and autumn period around the 7th century BC are the best preserved of all ancient Chinese clothing. In ancient China, it was emphasized that there must be a notable difference between men and women. This notion inevitably found expression in people's clothing and costumes. This is xunyi. Its upper and lower parts are sewn together. Clothing of that time period was required to cover the entire body to ensure that no skin was revealed. But it couldn't be too long so that it trailed on the ground. Xunyi is made of silk and lace with brocade borders. It looks beautiful and it withstands wear and tear. This was the most popular style at the time. Later, xunyi evolved into the robe or long gown, which is the typical form of ancient Chinese costume. In 221 BC, Yingzhong, ruler of the Qing kingdom, wiped out 6 other rival kingdoms and established a unified Qin dynasty. Under his rule, many different systems were unified, including writing, weights and measures, and, of course, standardized costume design and clothes. Qin men tilled the land during times of peace, but they fought as soldiers in times of war. As dictated by state decrees of the era, so even civilian costumes of the Qin dynasty had strong martial characteristics in their design. In 1974, Chinese archaeologists discovered an underground army near the mausoleum of the first Qin emperor. Actually, It's an army of terracotta warriors, regaled in armor from over 2,000 years ago. The first Qin emperor was the first ruler to unify China. Imperial garments had images of the sun, the moon and stars, the dancing phoenix and flying dragons. The use of these images contributed to the awe-inspiring nature of imperial supremacy. The Chinese emperor was also called the Son of Heaven, meaning he ruled the country by divine mandate. The emperor's hat was round in the front and square at the back, symbolizing the round sky and the square earth. These were deeply rooted beliefs in China in ancient times. Qin soldiers' armor and garments were classified into different styles, representing different ranks. The senior general, for example, wore a double-layered robe and long trousers. He donned a deep purple hat with a string knotted under his chin. The rank and file soldiers wore only robes and short pants, but they formed an invincible contingent of remarkable fighters. The Han Dynasty, which began in 207 BC, marked a period of territorial expansion for China. And the variety of costumes grew thanks to the rise of national strength. Supported by a developed silk textile industry, vivid yet simple Han clothing was exported to the world via the Silk Road. Han garments were loosely fitting, especially women's dresses, which had evolved from shunyi. The clothing could either be left loose or tightened at the waist to accentuate a woman's shape. The sleeves were airy and long, adding to the sense of grace in movement and flow. Costumes unearthed at the Han Tomb in Mawangdui, Hunan province, feature varying patterns of clouds, animals, and mountains. meticulously created due to progress being made in the silk industry. The Tang dynasty began in 618 AD and represents the heyday of Chinese feudal society. It boasts of vast territories, economic prosperity, and extensive exchanges between the rest of the world. All this contributed to an unprecedented boom in garment design and development. Tang women no longer had to stick to traditional clothing codes. Now they could wear dresses that revealed much of their chests and arms. This was a fashion revolution rarely seen in rigidly stratified ancient Chinese society. During the peak of the Tang dynasty, the big sleeve gown was the most popular woman's dress at the imperial court and palace. Tang people appreciated the beauty presented by plump and colorfully attired women. A Tang woman's skirt swept up to her chest in order to stress the plumpness of a rounded waist. Her skirt was made of 6, 8, or up to 12 pieces of fabric. The color yellow suggested the sun, and the sun symbolized the supremacy of the emperor. So it was decreed that the color brownish yellow be exclusively used in imperial costumes. This tradition lasted until the late Qing dynasty, 1644 to 1911 AD. The Sung dynasty was established in 960 AD. At that time, Neo-Confucianism, which stressed rituals and proper behavior, was the predominant school of thought. As a result, Sung costumes followed traditional styles and reflected more serious and plain attitudes. This was a notable departure from appealingly stylish and revealingly Tang clothing designs. Sung women wore two-piece dresses with short upper garments and long skirts. The style was strongly suggestive of ancient Chinese costumes. Their skirts were decorated with colorful patterns, meticulously painted or embroidered. Some were sewn with pearls. Garments that were dyed with tulip root extract represented the highest level of nobility, and the pomegranate-colored skirt was regarded as the most beautiful. With the development of the handicraft industry, silk textile art reached a new height, producing silk fabrics with a rich variety of decorative patterns, and the quality of workmanship became increasingly more excellent. The Mongols founded the Yuan dynasty in 1271 AD, and their clothing was distinctly different from that of the Han, or mainstream ethnic Chinese. The Mongols were endowed with strong features of their own. Women of Mongolian nobility wore gugu headdresses. These hats stood 70 to 100 centimeters high and had birch bark or bamboo frames. Matching the gugu headdress, women would wear Mongolian robes. The noblewomen's robes were loosely fitting and long enough to reach the ground. Baggy sleeves tapered off at the cuffs. They were made of golden brocade, velour, or woolen cloth. Women's robes, which also reflected the influence of Han culture, were quite different from the tightly fitting outfits worn by Mongolian herdsmen. And then came the Ming Dynasty, which began in 1368 AD. The Ming government abolished the Yuan costumes and formulated a new system of garments according to the habits and customs of the Han people. The Han are the mainstream ethnic Chinese race. Due to the rapid development of the economy, silk fabric production and silk textile technologies in southeast China were enhanced dramatically. Women's garments of this time boasted the richest variety of styles, the finest workmanship, and the most harmonious colors from among Chinese costumes of all dynasties. The paddy field costume was very popular among Ming women. It was made by piecing together many small pieces of silk. As a result, patterns in various sizes and colors were created, and its kaleidoscopic colors appealed strongly to the people. Officials' costumes were a clear expression of the system of hierarchy. The most impressive decoration for officials' costumes was the Mandarin Square, which was sewn onto the chest and back of each garment, displaying the rank of the bearer. Birds embroidered on the Mandarin squares indicated civil servants, while other animal images were used for generals and officers. On grand occasions and important ceremonies, like the emperor's birthday, the queen and imperial concubines would wear phoenix headdresses decorated with phoenix figures and pearls. The emperor sported the royal crown and a dragon robe. The elaborate golden dragon patterns on the robe were embroidered with gold filaments. It took about 270 days to make a dragon robe. It was an extravaganza. The last monarchy in Chinese history, the Qing dynasty, was founded in 1644 AD by the Manchus, a nomadic people. Qing costumes borrowed many clothing elements from the Han people, especially the use of decorations for rituals. Manchu women wore wooden-soled shoes with the high heels in the middle of the soles. This was an ancient ancestral tradition handed down over many centuries. The Manchu woman wore a robe, not a skirt. The robe reached all the way down to her feet. To match the robe, she put on a unique headdress. A black trapezium-shaped adornment was inserted into her hair bun. This adornment was decorated with gold or silver hairpins, a big flower, and tassels. It was called a dalachi. The imperial dragon robe features hoof-shaped cuffs, and the lower section consists of a four-piece front and back. These were living vestiges of the horse-riding military expedition lifestyle of their Manchu forefathers. All these were elements that became important features of imperial and official costumes during the Qing dynasty. In China, many ethnic groups live, develop, and enjoy prosperity together. The costumes of the 56 ethnic groups in the country have different features, which have a great deal to do with their different natural surroundings, habitats, and customs. The costumes we see in this film are the crystallization of the cultures and creativity of China's ethnic minority groups. The Yi people live in the southwest region of the country. They wear collarless and tight-sleeved garments. Over these garments, they put on embroidered waistcoats. Yi women, old and young, wear unique pleated skirts. A fire pit is indispensable to the Yi people's lives all year round. For them, the fire pit is a symbol of the god of fire. Here, Yi women present a beautiful sight, dancing at the Torch Festival, wearing their uniquely pleated skirts. The Miao ethnic group has more than 100 branches. As a result, there are over 100 different types of Miao costume. But the costumes of the Miao people in the southwest of Guizhou province are the most resplendent, with elaborate silver decoration and meticulous embroidery. Beautiful and elaborate patterns are embroidered on the sleeves, collars, and front of the garments. Silver bits and bells are sewn onto the cuffs, lower front, and bodices. It's no surprise, they're aptly called silver clothes. Miao groups were constantly on the move in ancient times, traveling with all their belongings. Extensive use of silver decoration in their costumes makes Miao clothing a dazzling standout from other ethnic groups. The Tibetan ethnic group is widely distributed over the southwest part of China. Tibetan costumes in different localities have one common feature: long-sleeved, loose-fitting robes. This style of dress fits perfectly with the life on the highland. Tibetan men wear loose-fitting, long robes over silk jackets. So, they're easy to put on and easy to take off. There's a rich variety of Tibetan-style hats, too, made of different materials. These hats represent a prominent feature of the life on the highland pastures. As well, Tibetan women have a large array of their own headdresses to choose from. Ornamental pieces most eagerly sought after are coral, turquoise, and silver. Tibetan men wear waist belts, while the women wear aprons of sharply contrasting colors. The apron, called a bangdian, is an indispensable article of clothing for married women in Tibet. Dai people inhabit the southwest province of Yunnan. The most striking feature of a Dai woman's clothing is the colorful cloth apron. Hence, they're called colorful waist Dai. The women wear embroidered, tightly fitting sweaters with silver pieces. Over the sweaters, they wear short jackets laced with embroidered brocade, festooned with numerous silver objects. Silk bands tie the colorful apron to the waist, accentuating a woman's feminine features. Uyghur costumes are noted for their gorgeous colors. Uyghur women wear waistcoats over silk one-piece dresses with loose sleeves. Their hair is woven into a dozen braids. A crescent-shaped comb is inserted into their hair as an adornment. Uyghur men wear long robes over shirts with a colorful belt girdling the waist. And a small cap is very typical of Uyghur-style costumes. Sometimes they even strap a dagger to their boots to show off their masculine prowess. The Mongolians are an ethnic group who live and travel widely on horseback. To adapt to the nomadic way of life in the saddle, they traditionally wear brilliantly colored loose robes with a wide band running across the waist. At traditional Mongolian festivals, wrestlers wear specially made attire to show off their powerful muscles and strong constitutions. Collars and cuffs of Mongolian robes are laced with decorative borders. Women's headdresses have brilliant colors and elaborate decorative artwork. Waistbands are often made of cotton or silk with colors matching the robes. Mongolian men often tuck the robe into the waistband so they can more easily mount their horses. Sam, or Mandarin gown, is characterized by its high collar, a full front and back, knit buttons, and a high slit in the skirt on each side. Its simple design and brilliant colors explain why the cheongsam is so popular. In addition, it best embodies Chinese women's grace, elegance, and natural beauty. Today, the cheongsam has become famous the world over and is recognized as the lithe and lovely costume of beautiful Chinese women. Chinese costumes have traveled through many millennia. They have witnessed the unfolding of history and are now writing an exciting brand new chapter.